A couple of years ago, I overseeded my front lawn with a grass mix that included what they called micro clover, but I think it just turned out to be regular clover. And the idea behind that was that because clover is nitrogen fixing, that means it draws nitrogen from the air and puts it into the soil, and that helps fertilize basically your grasses. And it's been a couple years now, but it's really started to take off. And I really like the look. Clover used to be, from what I understand, standard in lawn grass seed mixes, but I guess the kind of desire to have that perfectly manicured lawn at some point took over, and so they stopped doing it. But not only, in my opinion, does it look wonderful to have all these flowers on my front lawn, but it's great for our pollinators, our specifically our honeybees or our bumblebees. I don't know the difference, but it's great for them. And since the last time I mowed the lawn, the clover has really shot up. One of the other benefits is that I'm able to go longer in between mowing because the clover doesn't grow as tall as fast as the grass does. And mowing less is a more environmentally friendly because we have been using a gas lawnmower, and B, it just saves me time, and working a lot of hours don't have a lot of time to be mowing the lawn. So this has been a huge success as far as I'm concerned. But last year, I read something online about making tea from white clover, and that's what we have here. And I'm not a huge tea drinker, but I had a lot of time last year during lockdown, so I figured I would try it out, and it worked out pretty well, and it got me pretty interested in kind of the other things that are all around us that we don't really think of as stuff we normally eat, but are totally edible and actually good. Dandelions are another one that last year, all of a sudden, dandelion leaves were getting sold in my local grocery store, which I was surprised to see. But what I'm going to do today is harvest a whole bunch of this clover because I need to mow now anyway, and I'm going to use that. I'm not an expert on clover or anything, but from what I've gathered, when they first come up and they first flower, they have kind of a more full, rounded, all white kind of flower. And then as time goes on, let's see if I can find one. The kind of outer petals start drooping down, and you see this nice pink underside. Whether one or the other is better for making tea, I have no idea, but I just try to get a little bit of everything that doesn't look like it has too much brown on the underside. So this one over here, let's see, the underside has started to get a little brown and dried out, like that's past pink. So these, I imagine, are not quite as good, but I don't really know. So the ones that have either full white or more pink and not as much, see this one has brown underneath too. I'm probably just going to use all of them, but I try to get the ones that are most white with the least brown. I think I had read that you want just the flowers themselves, not so much the stems, because the flowers give the better flavor. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's what I'm going with. One other thing I would say is that I wouldn't go and do this at like my local park or something, and I'm sure there's plenty of clover there, because I don't know what type of spraying they do or fertilizing or whatever they do, I'm not sure. And I don't know if it would be stuff that would be safe to eat or if it would come off in boiling water or not. So I'm only doing this in my yard where I know that we haven't put down any fertilizer or anything. That was part of the point of getting the clover, was so that there would be no fertilizer in here. Not that we were going to put fertilizer either way, but the idea being that the lawn would be healthier without fertilizer. These here are what I always thought of as being clovers. They kind of heart-shaped leaves as opposed to the more rounded leaves with the clover. But like I said, apparently that is sorrel, and apparently those are edible also. But for whatever reason, I always thought of that as clover. And when I first started growing the clover, I was confused as to what I was getting because I was seeing these round leaves and it wasn't what I expected. It definitely takes a long time to get a decent amount of these. But I think it's a fun thing to do. I don't know, maybe once a season. This will be the second time I've done it. I did it once last summer, I think. Maybe if I get another big amount of a big clover blossom, I'll do it again this year. But I think probably just once a year as a novelty is pretty fun. Alright, so I think I'm just about done. I didn't have a specific amount I was trying to get. I just grabbed an empty coffee can because it was convenient. And I guess it's tea, so you can just adjust the amount of water to make it as strong or as, weak as you want. So I think I'm going to call it here and mow the lawn now, and then go inside and make some tea. Alright, so that coffee can was almost filled up, and that came to about 4 cups of the clover. And I just have a large mason jar here, and I'm just going to dump all these in. Probably good. Okay. And then I'm just gonna fill this as much as I can with water. Okay, that's right about up to the neck. And I'm just gonna give it a quick little stir. Make sure all of them get in there. Okay, and I'm just gonna let this steep for about an hour. Okay, so that's been steeping for about an hour. While I was steeping, some of the blossoms fell down, and then when I started moving it around, most of the rest of them did too. And now I'm just going to strain them from the large jar into a couple smaller jars to strain out the blossoms. I'm going to try to do this without spilling it everywhere. It's still kind of hot. Okay, that one's one's about filled. We'll dump these. And then we'll do the other one. Got it wet. Okay. Okay. Alright, so it looks like this is maybe 3.5 cups. This is 2.5 cups, so that's about right. So I'm going to try some of this now, but what I want to do is I want to have it as iced tea tomorrow, so I'm going to put most of this in the fridge overnight. So I just poured some and just tried some as it is right now, and it's good. I think last year I maybe didn't steep it for as long, and maybe the flavor is a little bit different. So I might next time steep it not quite as long, but even without any, I always have, with my tea, I have lemon and honey, so even without that, it's pretty good. It's certainly not offensive in any way. But as it is, it's just, it's nice and floral and kind of mild, but still good. So I'm going to put the rest of this in the fridge, and tomorrow I'll have it with some iced tea. Okay, so this has sat in the fridge overnight. It's nice and cold, and what I've done now is I just put a little bit in this glass and I heat it up in the microwave so that I can dissolve the honey into it more easily. I just put a little bit. So now that the honey is dissolved, I'm just going to plop a few ice cubes in there. And then fill it up. And this is kind of cool. When you add lemon to it, like I like to do, and then give it a stir, it turns this cool pink color. I don't know exactly why. I assume it's something with the pH. Red cabbage does the same thing. If you boil red cabbage, then the liquid will actually be blue, but if you add vinegar to that, it turns it to like a pink color. And we do that for when we dye Easter eggs. But that's it. Just a little bit of lemon, a little bit of honey, and the clover tea. Nice, refreshing.